Code Red, it's finally here! The official trailer for Stranger Things Season 5 has officially been released, and boy did they over-deliver. There is so many massive spoilers and huge plot reveals for so many of the main characters that once again I am blown away that they decided to reveal so much in another main trailer. But since this is 2.5 minutes of almost all entirely new footage, as you can see, this is going to be a very long video. So we're going to break down every scene frame by frame to show you all the things you missed your first time watching it. And make sure you're subscribed because we've got some videos coming out soon that you need to watch before Season 5 drops. I want all the Stranger Things fans in the comments for this one last curiosity voyage as we dive into the very final Stranger Things trailer. Now, to start off strong, we see the focal point of this season but from the upside down perspective. This is Hawkins' library. This is where Vecna opened the Mega Rift at the end of Season 4 that we see in all of these other shots in the middle of town with the military compound around it. But this is what you see when you would go through the portal into the Upside Down. This library is also where they took Will in Season 1 when they captured him from Castle Byers. This is also the place where they brought all of the other humans and the deer in the woods to hook up to the vines to feed off of. This building in the Upside Down has always been of significance, but it will be even more important in this final season. It is really weird that there's no visible Mega Rift on the backside of the library in this shot like there clearly is in the real world. I wonder if this shot specifically will be a flashback to the end of Season 4 before the Mega Rift got opened, or maybe it will be part of the Season 1 flashbacks when Will was first taken into the Upside Down in Season 1 because nothing in the structural integrity of the building is damaged or fallen apart yet like it probably would be when the Mega Rift was opened, just like the actual library fell apart. I really like this as the opening shot though. Now next we cut to a shot of the Demogorgon, most likely inside the library we just saw, and we see him literally bow his head to Vecna, king of the Upside Down, and he slowly backs away. This is such a cool detail. We see Vecna slowly emerge from the shadows as he says, "At long last, we can begin." Which is really funny because this kind of almost refers to the 18-month time jump from the end of Season 4's finale. Even Vecna knows it was a long wait between these seasons. They ended on such a big finale moment, having this rift rip the town of Hawkins apart, only to pause the story and let time pass in-universe for a year and a half. That's insane! I feel like everyone in the town by now would have moved away. Of course, for the story's sake though, in those 18 months, Vecna has been recovering since he came face to face with Nancy and has been rebuilding his strength, getting stronger, and building a bigger army to attack Hawkins with. But honestly, we've seen how fast demo dogs can grow. From a tiny little tadpole with legs, it took Dart a matter of days to get to be a full-size demo dog. At that rate, it should have taken Vecna a couple weeks at most, not 18 months. But who knows, maybe he needed to meditate or take a little vacation to unwind in the upside-down version of Florida. But by Season 5, Vecna is basically ready to start his invasion of Hawkins, which is very exciting. And in these 18 months, the kids have also been searching for Vecna and he's been hiding, getting stronger, but thankfully so is Eleven. She's been training and preparing for this war. Now, the next shot is of Vecna's larger left hand, but it almost looks like there's something behind it, like a person on the ground back there. Could that actually be young Season 1 Will Byers? I mean, it's totally possible. What if this entire sequence is a flashback? The pre-destroyed library and this Vecna does not look like Season 5 Vecna. This looks closer to Season 4. What if this is Vecna from Season 1 that we never saw? And what if this is the same Demogorgon that actually captured Will from Castle Byers and brought him to the library where Hop and Joyce eventually find him? That would be so cool. I mean, think about it. The very first scene from the entire Season 5 will be a flashback to Season 1. What if Vecna's line of "at long last we can now begin" refers to him waiting since 1979 for a suitable host, and now he can finally begin to make his way back to the real world? Insane! Next, we see Dustin riding his bike to school. It's crazy that the end of the world started and teachers still want to give out homework. I can't imagine school will take any sort of priority this season. Demo dogs are going to be running through people's homes, murking everyone, and you could literally use the excuse "a demo dog ate my homework," and there's a good chance it would actually be true. We also see quite a lot of military presence even at the school itself. I don't know why they're here in these Humvees, if the reason they're in Hawkins is to cover up the portal at the library. I wonder if since there has been a demo dog outbreak earlier, or some other threat that they're here to protect the kids from. We see Dustin making his way through the halls of the school without a care in the world, brushing past this guy and not even noticing. He is locked in solely on stopping stopping the end of the world, not math class. And this next shot is so cool to see. This shows the aftermath of the chaos from Season 4's finale, the actual ground being ripped open. We can see the rubble left over, and the holes that were torn through these buildings is just insane. It leads all the way up to the rift on the back of the library. I'm honestly surprised they never covered it up and built cover around it, kind of like in Thor around his hammer, just so no one else could see over the fences. Now, since this aerial view shows us the opposite side that the first shot showed us, we can actually see the barracks buildings the military is keeping the children in are located on the other side of the library to the right, and behind it entirely they installed a helicopter pad. I'm sure this will get used to introduce Dr. K and bring back Sullivan, but I really hope we see them utilize it during the Demogorgon massacre. I want to see someone try to take off in the helicopter and Demogorgons swarm it World War Z style, just engulfing it before killing the pilot, and it spins out of control and lands in a fiery explosion. That would be so cool. We next get a couple shots of Mike and Eleven's quiet hangout on top of the radio station. This looks like a much needed scene between them, especially after all of their struggles and being apart all last season. Then we cut to the military outpost on the outskirts of town with 10 heavily armed soldiers patrolling. This is similar to where we saw Mike, Will, and Holly riding their bikes past all the military transports. This is most likely their farthest reaching lockdown point in Hawkins. I'm sure discouraging anyone who isn't supposed to be here to turn around. I'm curious how much these soldiers know about what they're doing here though. I feel like all of them that walk by this giant portal in the middle of town have to be informed on what's actually going on, which is an insane amount of people who now know about the Upside Down. After, we see Joyce and Eleven dropping down into the abandoned tunnel system from Season 2. Make sure you go rewatch that season at the very least. I'm sure Joyce here is going to be flooded with past trauma flashes the first time she re-enters these tunnels, not only from saving Hopper's life, but also remembering back to the time Will was possessed and mapped out all of these. And also no doubt remembering Bob, since he was the one to put all the pieces together. Eleven has on a backpack full of gear, and there's someone else coming down the ladder after her. It looks like it could be Jonathan's baggy jeans and white shoes, but it could be Steve as well. It looks like they're using a ladder in a secure location to enter the tunnels, as if they have an access point in their HQ at the radio station. Either that or some safe house like the barn we see them hiding in. And then right after this, we see Jonathan, Nancy, and Steve pushing aside a shelf in the radio station to reveal a hidden access to the basement where we see them plotting their missions. This is most likely to keep their plan secret from the military if they were to ever drop by unannounced and do a random inspection. Hopefully they don't even know they're here using this place, but it doesn't hurt to be safe. The next shot reveals Robin is there with them, waiting to go down as well and meet everyone else to plan their next search. Then we see Hopper and Elle wandering through the Upside Down, both with flashlights and Hopper with his weapon raised. It seems like they're literally just wandering through the Upside Down on foot, searching for Vecna manually. We did see Elle going into the void in a bus to search for him, but it seems like if they haven't found him in a year and a half, that they're obviously having trouble locating him. This is very reminiscent of Season 2 Hopper walking Elle through the hallways of the lab to close the gate. It also seems like this is a regular thing that they've been doing since Season 4, maybe once a week, doing these search missions trying to locate Vecna. I really hope Hopper has some Molotovs or something fire related in his backpack. I'd feel much safer if he was carrying a flamethrower instead of this. It's so foggy here that they can't really see anything. I'm sure this is how they'll eventually run into the wall we'll see them find in the teaser. Then we see the scene that follows the last one of them all in the basement of the radio station working on a plan. Jonathan, Nancy, Steve, and Robin are on one side, and Will, a very beaten up Dustin, and Lucas on the other. You can also see Joyce's jacket to the left of Will. Behind them, you can see a giant map on the wall of Hawkins. And then on the table in front of them is a bunch of D&D pieces, specifically the Demogorgon from Season 1, and then each of the original 4 boys' pieces it looks like. Now, all the while, since we saw Mike and Elle on the roof, Mike has been narrating, saying that they're literally starting to lose it, being stuck in here with no end in sight. But then he says, maybe tonight is our break. We find Vecna and we end this once and for all, together. It's absolutely crazy that they've just been living in this limbo for the last year and a half, not knowing where Vecna is or when the next time he'll attack is. They've just been in a constant state of fear and anxiety for 18 months now. Do you know how many nightmares they've all probably had by now? I doubt any of them are sleeping well. This would be a crazy living situation. It sounds like Mike here is talking about their next mission. Maybe they got a lead to where Vecna might be, and he's being hopeful that after so many failed missions of not not being able to find him, maybe tonight will be their night. And since this is when the show picks back up, there's a good chance that it will be, that Vecna will finally be coming for them. He also talks about ending it. I wonder what their plans to end Vecna are once they find him. The most effective thing that they know will work against the Upside Down and the hive mind protection is fire. So first and foremost, I want to see each and every one of them with their own flamethrower. I know Murray can handle his own and Hopper would do well, and we just saw Nancy take on her own, but I want to see Steve with a flamethrower. I want to see Joyce try to use a flamethrower. I just don't see how any other weapons would make sense for them to carry after what they saw in Season 4. Next, we see a very ominous shot of 11 looking at some red lightning in the Upside Down. This seems somewhat significant, like maybe they're trying to follow the lightning to where Vecna is hiding or where a portal might be. I mean, it could just be the lightning from these next shots, but they love to stitch unrelated things together. We see 11 in front of this forest. This is where we see her put her bandana over her face in the other teaser, and then we see her start running forward, and then she uses some of these new powers they've been teasing to push herself up into the air over this military chain link barbed wire fence and into the military facility inside the Upside Down. This seems to be active with spotlights on the perimeter and a functional building here in the Upside Down. But 30 seconds later and we get more shots of this, where 11 is going Assassin's Creed over the roof of this building. I guess she's been learning parkour as well. I mean, she had 18 months, might as well, right? If you notice though, the overhead blue fluorescent light in this building looks awfully similar to the room we see Hop and Elle inside of. It seems like whatever is in here that they're looking at is what they've been after. One reporter who visited set said that right after this scene, 11 has a massive realization, like she's about to learn something so important. Now, in the background of this first shot, we can also see this massive dome structure. This is a radome, basically a housing to protect a radar antenna that sits inside of it. I wonder if this is going to have any significance or if this will simply just be what the military uses to communicate between the Upside Down and the real world. I would think they would just use hardwired communications, but maybe it goes to this, which lets them use wireless when they venture out from this compound. And then here's that shot of 11 dropping down from the roof with the massive red lightning behind her. This looks so cool. We see 11 ball her fists and get her game face on, focused and ready to use her powers, and then the shot after, they cut to a different scene of 11 using her powers. She's in the same outfit, but a completely different room. This is somewhere so different. Maybe this is her about to let Hopper in the facility or something. After that, they show Hawkins' lab in the Upside Down. A very important location as well. There's this weird massive red energy ball floating above the building, which, remember, this is where 11 was when she first pushed Henry into Dimension X through that gate she opened, and it's also the place where 11 first made contact with the Demogorgon in Season 1 and opened the first gate. This location will be extremely important. And this also looks very similar with the way it's moving to the giant red electro cloud we see Nancy and Jonathan find while they are inside Hawkins' lab in the Upside Down. So they might be a piece of the puzzle that helped trigger this. And there's actually a new shot in this trailer of Nancy and Jonathan finding it, which has completely changed. If this shot looks familiar, it's because it is. This is the exact same shot we saw in the teaser, but little did we know that they were completely hiding everything from us the first time they showed it to us. This is the same frame for frame, except look at this. This is the original, and this is the most recent. That's crazy. They basically hid all these juicy details on the sides and more detail in the cloud from us just by darkening everything. I mean, thank goodness, they literally turned the brightness up to 100 for me. This is so cool to get a better look at all of these walls just melting away. I wonder if they're on the roof of the building, literally standing right underneath it here. I mean, there's no signs of them on the roof in this shot, but all of the structures around the center of it do look like the walls we can see in the other picture. I think they're on the roof. But this red energy cloud ends up exploding, sending 3 massive shockwaves outward over the entire Upside Down. The shockwave is just massive. I can only imagine what is going on with these, but we follow them all the way to the edge of the Upside Down. We see a shot of Hopper looking up at them, which now they are blue, by the way. This little head here on the right of him is probably 11, but I'm not sure. As we pan, we see that Hopper is now outside of the same church we saw Dustin at with Nancy and Steve in the last teaser, and as well as that, he is also at the wall at the Upside Down's edge. This is really crazy. I feel like this is Endgame vibes. I wonder what's going to happen when this wave hits the wall. Will it burn it away or absorb it? Why is this happening? To find Vecna? Vecna or to destroy the Upside Down. Now, going back, after this we see a shot of Nancy and Jonathan looking up at it with much more of a clear shot of them being on the roof this time. Those are definitely trees in the background. Nancy has her shotgun, which, if you remember, she will end up shooting this thing. Probably that's what starts the reaction, since before she shoots it, there's no red lighting. And Jonathan, I love, is putting his arm over Nancy, most likely to protect her a little. Not that it will do anything much, but I do love all the Nancy and Jonathan scenes of this trailer. This goopy white stuff all over the place is the weirdest thing we saw in the other close-ups too, and it just looks so different than anything else in Stranger Things. Maybe it's some reaction of reality warping or melting near this unstable gate. Do keep in mind that after this happens, they eventually take off their jackets and sit down and have a cry together for some reason. We have another shot of it in the trailer too, and it's just as concerning. Definitely seems like an accepting their fate or desperation cry. Grab some tissues because this will be emotional. Now, backtracking 30 seconds, we see a cool shot of the gang's van hightailing it to the station, which looks amazing. I'm sure we'll see a lot of it this season. Then next is actually the first shot of the upstairs part of the station we've seen with the actual broadcast booth, which looks very similar to the inside of the actual radio station they based this building off of from the Duffers' hometown, which is really cool. And it seems like Joyce is back to herself, being worried about a passed out Will who is laying on the couch behind her. Maybe this is the day after the burn night from the first teaser where we saw Will's eyes roll back into his head and then he passes out on the ground. Mike is there too, which is really nice. I loved seeing him stay with Joyce and Will in season 2 when he was sick, so this is a really cool callback to that. Eleven starts to narrate, saying that this isn't like one of Mike's campaigns, and that he doesn't get to write the ending. Not this time, which I really like. I love that they're basically planning and carrying out missions in real life to combat the Upside Down, just like the boys would do in their D&D games to defeat whatever monsters the campaign had. But unlike when Mike was the dungeon master and he wrote how the campaign would end, Eleven is reminding him that this is unlike those. These missions, he has to be careful because there's no telling how this real campaign will end. They do not know how to defeat Vecna yet, or even where he's hiding. Next, we get a cool shot of the boys meeting before school in the woods where Chrissy met Eddie. In this shot, they're actually on a different page in the notebook from when we saw a similar shot in a previous trailer, and it seems like Mike's been working very hard on this, just like he would on any of his other campaigns. You can see just how many tabs he has at the top. Now, this new map actually reveals a lot. First off, you can see the title of this page is Day of Disaster. This is a clipping from a Hawkins newspaper, and under it says, Hawkins left in ruins after region suffers from huge earthquake, confirming once again that the whole public cover-up for all of this is just simply an earthquake, which is crazy. I wonder if they'll say all the Demogorgon deaths during the military massacre will just be bear attacks or something. There's also a bit at the bottom saying that Indiana actually declared Hawkins as a disaster zone and that hundreds of people went missing in the event. But in this shot, Mike puts down 2 D&D pieces on this location here, which actually looks like the same church that Dustin was at here and Hopper apparently was at as well. This church is going to be way more important than we think. You can also see that the downtown area is actually directly to the left of this, which is much closer to the military compound than I was expecting. But what's even more interesting is that right here he has labeled a tunnel entrance right underneath downtown, confirming even more that they will be using these tunnels to their advantage to sneak around Hawkins out of the military's eye. On the right side of the map, you can possibly see the farm that they'll be using as a safe house / trap with Derek during the turnboat trap. We can also see on the right they have a little mini piece for the van, which is adorable. It seems to be a little keychain charm or something. The 2 figures Mike put down at the church look like this. One has armor and a shield, which might be Hopper, and the other is most likely a magic user wearing a hooded cloak, which could very well be Elle. Then we see that very concerning shot we all knew was coming of Will wandering away from the boys in the woods like he saw Vecna's grandfather clocking a tree or something. We saw a BTS shot of this, and whatever is about to happen, it does not look good. And during the Red Death Cloud scene, Nancy says that he's planning to end our world, referring to Vecna, I would assume. And then she continues by saying that he's not going to stop until they're drained of every last ounce of suffering. It seems like she's in the hallways of Hawkins Hospital while she's saying this, and it cuts to the scene of her wiping the blood off her hands crying. She's in the same outfit, and it definitely looks like there's some blood on her sweater here, so she could be referring to whoever was just attacked and she was crying over in the bathroom. But we We did see her get pumpkin guts all over this same sweater, so it could be that, but I do think it's blood. Now, next we cut to the shot we saw from earlier, but a new angle of Robin and Murray standing outside the radio station as more cracks open in the ground to the upside down. Maybe this is just when Vecna invades because we see other similar holes opening up that Demogorgons will pop out of. This will most likely spawn this Demogorgon that we see chasing them in the Bradley's big buy truck. And then we see the actual Demogorgon jumping through the portal into the tunnel that Lucas has fallen down in. We got a behind the scenes pic of this from an article recently, but all of this with the blood already on his t-shirt is just terrifying. We saw him running behind some children in the previous teaser in these tunnels as if he was there helping Mike and Joyce evacuate the children from the military facility through the nearby tunnel entrance to get them to safety. And then the Demogorgon outbreak happens and one of them comes into the tunnel with Lucas. I have no idea how he's not going to die right here. Put your theory in the comments. Next, this might be one of my favorite shots from the entire trailer. Nancy is going to be so bad this season. It looks like she's in front of Radio Shack with this sign behind her, which means middle of downtown in the military HQ. She's rocking another new weapon this season, an M16 with a ton of tactical gear on, as well as a sling with, I think these are supposed to be shotgun shells. They don't look like normal shells, almost a little too big, but Nancy could just be a little small. Usually they have a brass head around the base with the primer in it, but these don't have those. They could be flares, but they look a little small for that, and I have no idea why she would need so many flares. Here's a better shot of her popping out of something with foam padding around it, like she's in this little container. I have no idea what this is. The weapon almost looks like hoppers with the flashlight attachment, but we have seen military carrying these as well, and it seems like she's opened fire on a military soldier and hits him, which is crazy. I mean, this could be a Demogorgon attacking him, but it doesn't look like it. No Demogorgons are anywhere else. I wasn't sure if they would actually be shooting the military, but it kinda looks like it. We can also see her shotgun on a sling on her back, as well as another weapon. This girl is loaded. She is not messing around. I wonder if a Demogorgon will attack her family and that will make her go full Rambo this season. I'd be totally down for that. We then see a shot of a still beaten up Dustin in a brand new outfit, a ghillie suit, which is typically used as camouflage, and he's standing on top of the radio tower in the upside down, it seems like. Nancy is beside him in all of her tactical gear, and it seems like Jonathan or Steve is coming up the ladder behind them. In the next shot, we can see Steve is probably to the left armed with the axe this season, which is very exciting. They're all looking up into the sky full of lightning here. And after that is a shot of what seems to be the area between worlds. This looks like a more evolved version of the Dimension X we saw 11 blast Henry Creel through. Back then it was all monotone and brown, but still had the floating rocks and lightning and seemed to be the space between two opposite worlds. There's mountains below, and then you look up to the ceiling of what seems to be more mountaintops, but just upside down. I'm sorry to reference this, but it kind of looks like Middle Earth and Godzilla vs. Kong in the center of the Earth where gravity gets canceled out in the middle space. This seems to be the same area Henry Creel traveled through in 1979, but now it's been changed to look more like the rest of the Upside Down. This is technically Dimension X, the in-between space, not the Upside Down, and it seems like someone is actually falling through it here in the far background. At first glance, I wondered if it was 11, and thought, what if Vecna will partially succeed at first, doing to 11 what she did to him all those years ago? That would be crazy, although it could be Will, but I don't think so. We see his fate later on in the trailer. But it could be Holly. The clothes look very similar, and we know Vecna will be targeting her this season, but to send her through Dimension X would be crazy. Maybe he lures her to this door and that's where it leads. Next is yet another very worrying shot of Jonathan hugging all the kids. He's hugging Dustin in the ghillie suit, he's hugging Lucas, and then possibly Will in the red hoodie, but this would be a new outfit. There seems to be someone else behind Lucas in the green top, and then 11 is hugging them all from behind in her deprivation wetsuit. This might be Mike's sweater in the very back, I'm not sure though, and it seems like Vicky is back here watching them. We've seen Dustin be sad, we've seen Lucas almost die, we've seen Jonathan sad. I am just so nervous about what they're crying over here. Moving on, here's a really cool solo shot of Erica in the school hallway. We saw her in this fit in episode 3 in the Turnbow Trap BTS when she's in Mr. Clark's classroom. Say that 10 times fast. We get a close-up in the car of Nancy, Jonathan, Steve and Dustin, where Nancy says, "Do it," and Steve punches it as they drive through the portal at the McCorkle's farm. And then it shows all 4 of them in the car, thankfully, driving through everyone's backyard fences. Next, we get an intense shot of Eleven fighting in the Upside Down in an absolute whirlwind as she uses her powers to throw a tombstone with a cross on top of it out of the way, which is crazy. There's some top of a building here in the background in the distance. It doesn't look like the church or the library, but I'm not sure what it could be. And then this is from inside a military facility where all the windows are getting blown out from what looks to be an explosion outside that sends all of these soldiers flying. It does look like there is a kid on the ground, possibly with their hands tied behind their back, and it could be their pack on this chair on the right as well. And I can't figure out who wears these shoes. I know it's not Eleven, or Nancy, or Mike, or Will, or Lucas, or Dustin, Jonathan, Robin, Steve, or Derek, but I couldn't figure out whose they were. Put it in the comments if you know whose shoes these are. Definitely intriguing. Next is such a cool shot of Lucas carrying Max and Kate Bush into the elevator at the hospital. I am so excited for more Lucas and Max. I really hope we spend a lot of time on them, with Lucas protecting her from the demo dogs and them eventually getting her back. Her being unconscious during the demo dog outbreak is actually insane. This next shot of the demo dog charging them is crazy. I mean, it doesn't even look like the elevator doors have even started to close. This is not good, guys. I can't believe how often Lucas is staring down monsters in just this trailer alone. They'd better not kill him off. Then we get a shot of Holly running to Karen in the kitchen. It seems like after the bathtub scene possibly, Karen is visibly wet and Holly's hair looks pretty wet as well, but Karen looks like she's wearing something different. This scene too is going to be crazy. I wonder how good Karen is at fighting off Demogorgons. Maybe we'll see where Nancy gets it from. We got a shot of Dr. K and a soldier walking forward in the downtown HQ firing on something. It looks like they're right in front of the ramp that leads to the portal that Vecna will come through, but it's hard to tell when this is. It would be crazy if they killed her off in episode 4, since reportedly everybody here but the kids dies in volume 1's finale. And then speaking of, we get yet another extension of the scene, so now stitched together it looks like this. And this is the 3rd time they've shown us this scene, and it's kind of funny to see the color grading changes that have happened so far. This is the first version released 4 months ago in the date announcement, and then here is the first revision from last month's One Last Adventure video. They brightened it up and added some blue tones, and then in this video they brightened it up even more and gave it yellow tones. Now this next shot is even crazier. It seems like this takes place before the last one and shows up close Mike and Joyce trying to carry Will, closely followed by the kids. And in the background is absolute carnage. The Demogorgon massacre is here, ladies and gentlemen. Just look at this shot. There's 19 soldiers here, all of which will end up dead. And the Demogorgon leaping over the kids is just chef's kiss. Absolutely terrifying. You can see the portal in the background behind them that the Demogorgon came through. More importantly, Will does not look okay here. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the long oneer they were talking about. All of the extras in the background and the walking camera following the kids and the Demogorgon overhead, everything just lines up. This is going to be such a cool shot. Then we cut to a frame looking at another hole in the ground with 7 dead already, with a pile in the background, and this fuel tanker explodes, sending soldiers flying. This is so cool. Then we get a sick teaser of almost 40 soldiers here fighting 2 Demogorgons in the middle of downtown. I mean, this is going to be sick, an insane battle, but I really hope this ends up being more than just 2 Demogorgons. I would hope for at least 5 to 7 of them going crazy all at once. But still, this is going to be such a good ending episode to Volume 1. This Demogorgon jumps on the tower and rips the soldier off, which is so cool. And then next, this shot is the one last close-up of the massacre. This Demogorgon down here is absolutely manhandling these soldiers. It's so laughable how everyone still uses bullets to retaliate against these monsters when this has never worked. The only time it somewhat worked was situational, when Hopper was shooting them on the suspended lift in Season 2's finale, but here it looks like he just knocks them off the lift and they fall into the abyss. It doesn't look like he's actually killing any of them. So many of the characters know by now since Season 2 that they don't like fire. You can burn them or chop off their heads if you'd like, but bullets don't really work. That's why I got so excited when we saw Nancy with a flamethrower in the commercial. If you didn't see that, go watch the last video and it explains everything. And finally, we get to the end end of Volume 1. This is crazy. Vecna himself has come through the portal and is killing soldiers. Everyone else is dead. Not very mutilated though. Honestly, the behind the scenes pic from the magazine was the most messed up we've seen a Demogorgon attack leave a soldier. And it could just be that they're leaving the mature gore out of the trailers. But still, the blood dripping off of Vecna's big left hand is terrifying. His legs are looking skinny as ever, but the new vine structures around his torso look really cool. They definitely saw the Grinch memes and said none of that anymore. His body is almost like a skeleton, mostly see-through. I guess they had to justify the larger VFX budget on something. I really like how the vines are much more independent and twiggy this time, and even his face has a lot more tendrils coming out of it, and his eyes are more glazed over this time. This is pretty shocking how different he turned out in Season 5. This is a completely different character. I absolutely love seeing the vines and tendrils all over his body being so much more dynamic. It's pretty insane. We then see a restrained Will on the ground in front of him, with Joyce and Mike nowhere to be found. Fire is all around him, and this is insane, but Vecna uses his powers to pick Will's tensed body off of the ground in the most eerie shot ever, and then this close-up of Vecna's crusty-looking fingers is just gnarly. This is so ominous. I feel terrible for Will that he's being kidnapped by this thing. Vecna brings Will to him in this beautiful side shot where we can see the red portal now ripped apart entirely, revealing the endless blue skies of the Upside Down in the distance. I really wonder where Joyce and Mike went. There's no way either of them would abandon Will right here, which has me worried. Yeah, they were protecting the kids, but they wouldn't leave Will alone. I really hope Vecna didn't hurt them, and I can only imagine what Vecna is going to do to Will. No doubt possess him again and use his body. At this point, Vecna is narrating and says, "William." I don't think even Joyce has ever called him William. What the heck? This is so weird. But he says, "William, you are going to help me one last time," which is so interesting. The trailer ends on this shot of a hopeless, suspended Will in front of Vecna as he reaches up to hold his face. And this is such a crazy reveal in this trailer. Volume 1 is going to be so intense. I can only imagine what Volume 2 and the finale will be like. The Duffers said that there's at least one scene from Volume 2 and 3 in this trailer, even though 99% of it is most likely just from Volume 1. That was insane. Make sure you're subscribed because I've got some really big videos coming out soon that you're not going to want to miss before Season 5 comes out. Thanks for watching. Peace.